Mixed reactions to news of renewed applications for IEBC positions. And no responsibility claims yet for Mogadishu's car bomb attack. Good afternoon to you. Glad you are joining us on this edition of The Weekend at 1. My name is Michelle Ngele. Our sign language interpreter is William Sila. Local politicians seeking to influence the 2017 election have been accused of being behind the ongoing clashes in Laikipia. The clashes are said to be between pastoralists and farmers living in Laikipia North constituency. Samburu West Member of Parliament Lati Lelelit said that the government should take care of every Kenyan security irrespective of tribe.
Usianze kusongea hapa kuja kufikiria serikali itanunua mashamba ya hao wazungu alafu itapeana. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. So if uko na hii idea, kama wewe ni kiongozi uko na hiyo fikira, nikitoka hapa anza kufikiria kurudi kwenu. There is no farm will be sold. Hakuna siku itanunua shamba. Hakuna wakati. There will be no time. The government will buy land from ADC, from any rangers at Muperu. Ndio mmeanza kusongea hapo. Nothing.
Labour Party of Kenya leader Babu Namwamba has criticized the recent move by the IEBC recruitment panel of re-advertising the position of the Commission's chair. Speaking at Osieko Market in his constituency, Namwamba expressed fears that external forces may be behind the move.
Why are you telling us you have to repeat the whole process all over again? We have wasted time. We have wasted resources. If this panel cannot perform, then maybe we should disband the panel and start the process completely afresh. What we as Labour Party demand is that we must complete the process of reconstituting IEBC immediately so that the new IEBC can start preparing for elections 2017. Na kama wewe uko na njama ya kuchelewesha tume mpya ya IEBC kwa sababu ya njama ya mchezo unataka kucheza na uchaguzi ujao, be very careful. Kwa sababu Wakenya hawatakubali mchezo wowote kufanyika kwa uchaguzi wa mwaka ujao.
With many parts of the country currently experiencing heavy downpour after an extended dry spell, it's a different story altogether in Turkana County. Hundreds of pastoralists in the county have been forced to migrate to neighboring Uganda, South Sudan and Ethiopia in the wake of the ravaging drought. Our reporter Joanne Leting reports.
A spot check by KTN revealed that Turkana North, Turkana West, and Kibish sub-counties have been adversely affected by the drought. Hundreds of animals have died and some keep dying each passing day. Hundreds of acres of land remain bare as the trees dry up and grasses slowly become history. Residents have expressed concern about the rate at which the semi-arid land is slowly turning into a desert. Kevina Akaya, resident of Kairis in Turkana North, lamented that their livestock had been forced to feed on feces.
Ukame iko hapa kwetu sana. Mbuzi zimeanza kufa. Sana ni kondoo. Kondoo ndio imeanza kufa sana kwa wingi sana. Hata sasa kwa mtu mwingine imefunga tu mbuzi ya kondoo. Sipokuwa hii mbuzi hii ndio iko peke yake. moja moja, na ingine tu inaenda kukonda na inaenda na ukame bado inaendelea kuingia, hakuna mvua.
She adds that the county government had brought fodder to them, but it was not enough to feed the now emaciated livestock. Akai Moita, resident of Kokro village in Turkana North, laments that they have been forced to share their food with their animals.
Tumeanza kurakata mbuzi irudi chini mwalisha na chakula ambaye ile kidogo ambaye unapea mtoto mnapatia mbuzi, ile ambaye unapatia mbuzi mnapatia mzee. Tumeatanganya na mali, tumekuwa na njaa. Mkambia nimekuwa goigoi, funda nimekuwa goigoi, ng'ombe nimekuwa goigoi. So hiyo ni kiangazi.
James Kwaruka, resident of Kairi, says that the area had not received rainfall for a long period of time, adding that the animals were now falling sick.
Hapa Turkana kuna ukame kwa sababu mvua tulifuata mwaka huu mwezi wa ngapi huko mpaka sasa hii hatujapokea mvua. Sasa mali naye Turkana hapa imeanza kufa kwa sababu wanakosa nyasi na kukosa maji. Na tena kwa hiyo ukame, ugonjwa imeanza kuingilia mali yetu.
Akai has called on the county government to come to their rescue by providing relief food and fodder so that they can save their animals and their children. The county executive in charge of public service, decentralized administration and disaster management, Charles Lokioto, said that teams had been sent to the drought-prone areas to assess the situation.
Wakati huu tunapoongea kuna teams ambayo tumetuma katika huko nyanjani ili waweze kutuletea ripoti ya hali ya kila area vile sasa imeanza kuwaka.
This comes a few days after a report released by the government indicated that the worst hit was Kilifi, followed by Kwale, Tana River and Taita Taveta. Other counties that were affected included Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, Marsabit, Makueni, Kitui and Samburu. Joanne Letting for KTN News in Kibish, Turkana County.
Time now for our special segment, and this week on Daring Abroad, we feature a Kenyan meat processing expert, Sylvester Nyadero, who is among expatriates in Liberia, helping transform the country's meat industry that was negatively affected by civil war. And as our special correspondent, Alex Shamada, reports, this is the last feature of our special series that focused on Africa.
I started working after graduation with Kenya Meat Commission, which I worked for a number of years before moving to northern Kenya to start up a new abattoir where I worked for many years, around 7 years. After that, I moved out of employment and went into private consultancy.
It is that private consultancy that has propelled Sylvester Nyadero into the international job market.
I worked in Somaliland to put up a sausage plant in Hargeisa. And I also worked briefly in South Sudan, also to help in putting up one of the abattoirs, and finally here.
Now he is in Liberia. His first assignment is as good as done. The abattoir, whose construction he has been supervising, is now complete and test runs done. Sylvester is working for an American NGO that is supporting Liberia's livestock sector.
I came primarily, one, to coordinate the various contractors, that is the civil engineers, the mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, refrigeration engineers, to ensure that the abattoir would produce or would run, or the production, there will be no downtimes, to end up with this facility to put it together. Yeah, one. Then two, to help in recruitment and training of staff. And then three, train the management team, yeah, and also train in the actual running of this abattoir.
Sylvester, a graduate of the University of Nairobi in food science and technology, is now one of the expatriates Liberians are depending on to uplift the sector that crumbled due to civil wars.
And Liberia do not have sufficient livestock supply to feed the populations, as compared to Kenya, or as compared to Somalia, where we have a lot of livestock, or in Tanzania, where we have a lot of livestock. And equally, livestock is very expensive in West Africa. It's twice or 2.5 the price in Kenya and the neighboring countries, or in East Africa.
Liberia, with a population of only about 4 million people, is known to be green almost throughout the year, with great potential not only for agriculture, but also livestock keeping.
Liberia imports virtually the livestock that is required from mainly Guinea, because there is high livestock population in Guinea and Ivory Coast. Tayarisha mashini, sasa hiyo ng'ombe iko juu, unararua ng'ombe kutoka juu. This is the first abattoir of its kind. The abattoir that was built earlier on was done in 1960s and is in a very, very bad state at the moment. We only have one meat inspector in the country, and you can imagine what that means. So more meat inspectors have to be trained.
Ebola outbreak that hit Liberia and other West African nations in 2014 spread partly due to poor handling of meat.
The issue of hygiene is a challenge, and people really have to be trained, even in the markets, of how to handle meat. And also remember, most of the meat that is eaten in Liberia is imported, mainly from India and other countries.
And one may ask, are there investment opportunities in the livestock sector here?
One is to invest in breeding and multiplication. Yeah, to bring the right breeds, because pasture is not the problem, water is not a problem. It's to get the right breeds and get the right veterinarians to take care of livestock. That is a big investment opportunity in this country.
This is one thing we're looking at, because here we have more than 10-15 persons working here who are being jobless. So it's going to help us.
The locals relate with us very well. They relate with us very well. I don't think they have problems with us. We don't have issues.
That brings us to the end of this special season of Daring Abroad, the Pan-African season, in which we featured Kenyans and other nationalities working or doing business, especially in Western and East African countries, from Kenya to Uganda, Burundi to Rwanda, Tanzania to Ghana, Liberia, and even Togo, where the headquarters of EcoBank is located. Signing off from Monrovia, the capital city of Liberia, I'm Alex Chamwada for KTN Weekend Prime.
All right, many thanks to our special correspondent, Alex Chamwada, for that special series focusing on Africa. Of course, expecting more from him on Daring Abroad. You're watching The Weekend at 1. We take a short break, don't go too far. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to The Weekend at 1. Now, no group has come forward to claim responsibility for the car bomb that killed at least 11 people and injured 16 others in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Suspicion, however, fell on the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab. The blast hit a market in the Waberi area while President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud was visiting a nearby university. More than 22,000 peacekeepers are currently deployed in Somalia in the multinational African Union force. Al-Shabaab wants Somalia to follow a strict version of Sharia law and is opposed to the presence of peacekeepers. Despite being ousted from most of its key strongholds in south and central Somalia, the Islamist group continues to launch deadly guerrilla attacks against the Somali government and foreign troops. After a UN probe into alleged rights violations was announced this week, thousands of Burundians took to the streets to protest against what they call foreign interference. There were reports that similar protests took place in more than 100 other areas across the country. Burundi's Solidarity and Human Rights Minister Martin Nivyabandi told a press conference on Thursday that the 3 UN investigators who have been mandated to look into human rights violations in Burundi are not welcome. The UN Human Rights Council has decided to appoint the investigators following a UN report from September that detailed atrocities and warned of genocide. The alleged atrocities occurred after Nkurunziza announced his plan to run for a 3rd term in April 2015. Commissioners from Algeria, Benin and Britain were appointed to lead the investigation. The UN estimates that more than 500 people have died in Burundi since the announcement. The morning descended on Havana Saturday and the celebrations erupted in Miami at the death of Cuban revolutionary leader Fidel Castro, whose iron-fisted rule defied the United States for half a century. Up to 1.3 million protesters braved sleet and freezing temperatures in Seoul to demand the resignation of President Park Geun-hye over a corruption scandal. Park is accused of allowing her friend Choi Soon-sil to manipulate power from behind the scenes. The president has apologized twice, but has so far resisted calls to resign. Organizers said 1.5 million people were in Seoul and another 400,000 others in regions in the country. Police put the turnout in the capital at 270,000. About 25,000 officers were deployed in Seoul, but there were no reports of violence. The protests, which began 5 weeks ago, were the largest in South Korea since the pro-democracy demonstrations of the 1980s. As Turkey's lira lurches to record lows against the dollar, businesses are feeling the pinch, and pessimism has set in amid ongoing political instability both at home and abroad.
Turkey's currency has plummeted to a new historic low. In the past month, it's lost 10% of its value. In an economy highly dependent on imports, Turkish businesses are being hit hard.
Dolar yükseldikçe
the more the dollar goes up, the less business we do here. Some days we have no customers, sometimes just a few. We can't make ends meet.
Our main problem is raw materials. In Turkey we use a lot of raw materials coming in from abroad, and because we import in dollars, our costs have skyrocketed.
There's little hope of a turnaround anytime soon, amid flagging growth and political instability following July's failed coup. And this week's vote by the EU Parliament to freeze talks on Turkey's membership sent the lira spiralling again.
If the European Parliament sends a signal like that, a message as negative as the freezing of talks, then foreign investors will believe the risks are real and will back away.
Turkish leaders appear divided on how to resolve the economic crisis. Experts say this could have consequences for the ruling party, the AKP. Until last summer, they were seen as a safe pair of hands, presiding over record growth. But a flailing economy is unlikely to go down well at the polls.
We take a look at sports and news now. The national women's football team, Harambee Starlets, were knocked out of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations after suffering a 4-0 defeat to Nigeria in the last group match in Cameroon. Starlets exit the tournament without winning a single match. All right, well, it is at that note that we wind up this edition of The Weekend at 1. We thank you for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele. Our sign language interpreter is William Sila. Do have a good afternoon.